Welcome to PwC's Tax Insights in Brief. I'm Adam Feuerstein, PwC's Real Estate Tax Technical Leader, and today I'm going to be talking about the one big beautiful bill that was signed into law on July 4th by President Trump, and in particular how it impacts real estate investors and real estate investments from a tax perspective. So first, starting with real estate investors, and we'll start with non-US investors. The big news, and again, this was telegraphed a little bit before the final bill came out, but the big news is that proposed Code Section 899, commonly referred to as the revenge tax, was not included in the final bill. That could have increased taxes on taxpayers from any jurisdiction that was deemed to be a discriminatory tax jurisdiction. But again, that's not in the final bill. For endowments, there's an excise tax increase from 1.4%, or I should say the maximum rate, goes from 1.4% to 8%. In the House bill, that was as high as 21%, but they ended up as 8% there. So people want to focus on their endowment investors and how impactful that might be. For private foundations, there's no change in the excise tax, and there was a proposal in the House bill to have increased it, but at least private foundations, no change for now. For individuals, no surprise that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act provisions that had reduced tax rates and changed the ability to take certain deductions, those are made permanent in the one big beautiful bill. And then and that includes Code Section 199A and the 20% business deduction that many people take advantage of, both because it can be something that you can take advantage of because you invest in real estate directly, or because you get dividends from a REIT. State and local taxes, which is one of the more contentious points in negotiations among Republicans for what the final bill would look like. At the end of the day, the individual deduction increases from $10,000 to $40,000 through 2029 and then reverts back to $10,000. There are phase outs of the ability to take more than $10,000 if your income is in excess of $500,000. Some inflation adjustments to all of those amounts when you work your way through the bill. Another big thing from a state and local perspective that was not changed is the ability for individuals to take advantage of the deductions that for taxes that partnerships pay. So those rules effectively stay the same under the final bill. And then with respect to real estate investments, switching gears a little bit, one big change is with respect to opportunity zones. In particular, that program is made permanent. Some other key changes. One is there'll be new zones every 10 years. And so people have to keep track of where those zones are as they move around every 10 years. Some changes in the criteria as well for which zones are being eligible. So they tightened those up a little bit. As far as the tax benefits go, people still get the large tax benefit of if you do invest in a qualified opportunity zone fund with capital gain income. Then on what you sell at the end of the day, that opportunity zone investment, if you hold it for more than 10 years, all of the gain between 10 and 30 years of holding is not subject to tax on a go-forward basis. So that's obviously a large benefit. They tweaked some of the other benefits. Now, if you do invest capital gain in a qualified opportunity zone, on a rolling basis, you'll get to defer your gain for 5 years, and you'll also get a 10% basis bump, which means that you're tax effectively on the property that you sold before investing into the qualified opportunity fund, that effectively your tax bill goes down 10%, and that basis bump is 30% if it's what's in a rural opportunity zone. So people are going to be focusing more on where are the rural opportunity zones so that they can maximize their opportunity zone benefits. Low-income housing tax credits program and new market tax credits. There were some tweaks to the low-income housing tax program, but also those were made permanent. And so people who utilize those programs can now have a little bit more comfort and certainty on a go-forward basis. For those that build condos or multifamily buildings for sale, they can now take advantage of the completed contract method. And that means that they only have to include amounts in income when the contract for, let's say, the condo sale or the sale of the building is complete. They don't have to include it in income while the construction's being completed, and so that's a welcome change there. REITs have a change to the REIT asset tests, in particular the tests for taxable REIT subsidiaries. A REIT can now hold up to 25% of its assets in taxable REIT securities. Before it was 20%, so that percentage goes from 20 to 25%. Bonus depreciation is made permanent, and so leasehold improvements, people can take those and effectively deduct it immediately if they're otherwise eligible. And then one last thing, solar and wind credits. Again, not surprising that those are being phased out. Both the House and Senate bills had different versions of those phase outs, but effectively what ended up being the final version is that you have to, in order to take advantage of solar and wind credits, you have to begin construction before July 4th, 2026, and then have it placed in service before 2028. So I hope you found that helpful and appreciate you watching PwC Tax Insights in Brief.